Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today you're joined by myself, Waqas Mirza, and Sheikh Noorudeen Rashid, and we're discussing the topic of gender identity. So Sheikh, let's start off by just discussing what the concept is in Islam of a male and female.
Yeah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Rabbi Yassir wa ya Kareem. Let's start with a Mubarak ayah of the Holy Quran from Surah Ar-Rum, ayah number 21. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَّوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Okay, it translates as, and of his signs, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's signs, is that He created for you spouses from amongst yourselves so that you might find tranquility in them. And He created love and mercy between you. Indeed, in that are ayat, are signs for people who reflect. This is Surah Rum 21. Okay, so many scholars quote this verse of the Holy Quran when speaking about this issue at hand today, that look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us as pairs, as spouses, created the male as male, created the female as female. Okay, and the issue of gender, we don't feel that there's two different realities to it. There's the biological reality and there's the emotional reality. We don't look at it like that. The way we look at gender, if you are male, you are male. And if you are female, then you are female. And this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us. Yes, we accept that people, might at times have certain desires or desire to change their gender or to be a different gender or what have you. People might have inclinations, but our teaching and our advice to such people is going to be, look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created you as male and this is what you are. And although you might have a slight inclination or somewhat an inclination to be the opposite gender, okay, this is one of the tests and the challenges that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us all in this life. And the way to deal with this is not to indulge it and just, okay, fine, I'll just become a female or what have you. This is not the response to it. The response to it is just like any other desire which is prohibited or wrong in any way, that you try to challenge it, inshallah ta'ala, stand up to it rather than indulge in it. And this is one of the things I really wanted to speak about today, the way this issue is being dealt with and the advice that's being given to people with regards to this issue is what we really disagree with as Muslims. It's not the fact that we don't reject the fact that people can have a desire to change their gender or can feel that they might be more suited as this gender or that gender. Okay, I've personally met people who have these kind of, even Muslim people who have these kind of thoughts and inclinations and such things. We're not going to reject that, but it's the response to that. And our teaching as Muslims is this is going to be treated just like any other unacceptable or unhealthy desire. Okay, we're not going to say, oh no, the desire doesn't exist, the want doesn't exist, the inclination doesn't exist. We're not going to say that. We'll say, okay, fine, we recognize you want this, but this is something which is prohibited, and if it's prohibited, then that means ultimately it's bad for us as individuals and as societies, so we're going to stay away from it.
What are some of the advice that are given nowadays regarding gender fluidity or wanting to change?
Yeah, have physically have the physical change. Often what people are told, obviously it depends who they go to this for, for this advice, but often what people are told is, okay, fine, if you feel more comfortable as a female, become a female. And if you feel more comfortable as a male, then just become male. Okay, and that's what we object to, and that's what we would disagree with.
We've been looking at some of the stuff earlier, and there's certain cases where people have gone through with it and later they're actually regretting the choice they've made.
Yeah, we have examples, and there's if you look for it in media, you'll find examples of people who were given such advice and did go ahead and then regretted it. Okay, and then made the transition, for example, from male to female, and then felt, well, hold on, I'm not happy with this, and then kind of transition back, or from female to male or what have you, and then afterwards, and a lot of these people, they do feel that they were given the wrong advice and the wrong guidance with regards to what they should do, and come back to the same point that our advice is not going to be indulge it. Our advice is going to be, no, this is something, okay, we will accept that you've got a desire for this, but this is wrong. Okay, it might not be illegal, okay, but as far as we're considered as Muslims, this is contrary to our Islamic teaching. So according to Islam, this is prohibited. Now, and we have, many examples that most people in this society would accept, that, people have certain desires, and our advice to them is, look, don't do it. Like, some people sadly have a desire to harm animals. Okay, we're not going to say to them, oh, you desire to harm animals. Our best thing to do is, just indulge it. Okay, involve yourself in it. Go and harm as many animals as you like and just be happy. This is what you need for you to be happy. So that's it. Go and do it. We don't do that. You see, we say, no, this is wrong. There's cruelty to animals. These poor animals not done anything to you. Okay, and kind of feeds into the debate on fox hunting. Okay, here in the UK, as a society, majority of people were against it, and the government stepped in and outlawed it. Okay, although obviously they struggled to uphold these laws, but they went ahead and they outlawed it, even though a segment of our society was outraged, and they felt that this violates their freedoms, and they're not doing anything wrong, and it's perfectly fine what they're doing. But most people felt that's wrong. Okay? You can't. They want to do it, but we step in and we say, hold on a minute here. No, this is not acceptable. You can't do this. It's wrong. Don't indulge your desire. You see, they'll put up all kinds of argument. Oh, we need this. It's socially good for us. It benefits us in this way and benefits us in that way, and and it's something that it's part of our tradition and such things. We step in and we say, no, this is harmful. There's harm in this. Now, obviously, somebody might respond to that and say, well, it's not a great example, because here you're speaking about harming somebody else, whereas when a person has an operation, changes their gender, it's not harming any other person. Okay, our response, we can give examples, and we'll come to that as well. When even when a person's harming just their own self, we still reject it. But our response would be, why don't we care when people are harming themselves? Islamically, it's haram to harm other people, and that's a terrible thing to do. But it's also haram to harm yourself. It's haram to cause yourself damage. So a good example, mashallah, yourself, you mentioned earlier, is the example of drugs. Okay, somebody says, look, for me to be happy, I need to take drugs. Okay, I'm going to take illegal drugs, and this makes me happy, and this is what I want to do. This is my freedom of choice. This is my, this is part of my liberty. I want to be able to do this. First of all, the law will step in and say, no, this is wrong. You're not allowed to do it. I'm not harming anybody. It's just me. Okay? I'm not harming anybody else. I want to do this. The law will step in first of all and say it's wrong, and then most of society, okay, especially with the class A drugs, most of society will step in and say, no, this is wrong. You shouldn't do this. It's going to be socially unacceptable, and the advice is not going to be, just go ahead and indulge. Just be happy. If this is what you need for your happiness, just go ahead and do it. And once again, that's what we object to regarding this whole discussion of gender. Okay, it's not the fact that we reject that people have issues, problems, concerns, they're uncomfortable, what have you. Khair, we accept that, but we say the response to it is not, and the advice to it is not, indulge it. The advice to it is, okay, look, you're struggling with this. Don't engage with it, don't indulge it, but rather fight against it, just like you fight against 101 other desires, 101 other inclinations, because they are wrong.
Like you said, I think it's important to mention that it's not. It's about fighting your desires, because you know a person who has a desire to commit zina, for example,
Yeah.
we're not going to tell them, okay, go do it because this is what you desire. We're going to tell them, listen, this is your struggle. You got to try fight this desire. So I think it's important to, just because you feel one way doesn't mean you have to act upon that feeling.
Yeah, exactly. And the point is, here, once again, it fits into that category where somebody, you know, where we can say, okay, here, these are two consenting people who are doing this. And, you know, there's no harm in the sense that you're attacking somebody, for example. Two consenting people, we're still going to say this is wrong, this is a problem. Obviously, many people in this society, non-Muslims, they kind of disagree with that. That's fine, that's up to them, but they won't disagree with our advice. They'll respect our advice. They say, okay, right, you're religious people, and for you to advise that this is wrong is fine. Okay, so we should have the same rights when it comes to gender. Okay, we should be able to say to somebody who wants to change their gender, our advice to you and our Islamic and religious teaching is this. And especially when it comes to children and advising children with regards to these matters, it's even more of a problem. You see, they're in their formative years and such things, and they're still developing, they're still understanding themselves and the world around them, and sometimes children can say absolutely absurd things, you see, and to tell them to just go, oh, you feel like a female today? Yeah, you're a female today. You feel like a male today? Oh, you're a male today. And then when you're old enough, just go and, you know, change your gender, okay? You know, this is especially, it's dangerous with everybody, even at adults. You know, we feel this is misguiding them, this is misleading people, but with children even worse. You know, children can just have all kinds of absurd inclinations, and we're not going to say to them, yeah, okay, if that's what you need and that's what you want for you to be happy, then just go ahead and do it. You know, sometimes it's, you know, it's strange and even funny, if you like. You know, a child might say, oh, it'd be so great to be in a wheelchair. Oh, it's so nice to be in a wheelchair. You know, you get an electric wheelchair and you walk around. Oh, I wish I was in a wheelchair. We're not going to say to this child that, yeah, I think the best thing for you to do is to have an operation, disable your legs, so then you're in a wheelchair. It's an absurd thing to do, you see. We're not going to do it because we feel this is harmful. Okay, is harming himself. In a similar manner, we feel it's harmful a person to change their gender. Or a much more, you know, that's obviously not a very serious example, but a much more serious example. A person says, I'm not happy in life, and the only way I can be happy in life is to end my life. We're not going to say to this person, okay, if that's what makes you happy, and you know you're not harming anybody else, it's your choice, it's your decision, go ahead and do it. We're not going to say it. You see what I mean? So this is the whole point of this issue, is that we feel people are being given the wrong advice and the wrong guidance, and as Muslims, alhamdulillah, we are blessed. Okay, this is not something we need to struggle with and then come to a conclusion with, you know, which often happens in culture and in society. Okay, an issue comes about, people start to think about it, this person makes this point, this person makes this point, the society is struggling with it, eventually they come to something close to a consensus, and that's where the direction in which people start going. We don't have this. Guys, in Islam, alhamdulillah, this is our blessing. We've been given guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is haram. This is not good for you. It's not going to benefit us. When we do something haram, na'udhu billah, it's not going to benefit any person in any way whatsoever. Now, so for us, it's very, very clear. We will recognize and we will accept that people may have concerns and issues, but the advice is to, you know, fight these inclinations and desires and not to indulge them.
Sheikh, is there anything in Hadith which talks about gender and not changing genders?
Yeah, there are a number of things, but one of the narrations in Sahih al-Bukhari speaks about, you know, let alone even going to that extent to change one's gender. And somebody might say, oh, back then they didn't even have the ability, you couldn't even have the operation and such things to do it. But what they did have the ability to do is castration. It's mentioned in Hadith. A Sahabi came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he essentially was asking permission for this Okay, and Sayyidina Uthman ibn Mad'un radiyallahu ta'ala, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam prohibited him. In Sahih Bukhari, hadith number 5075, in this hadith, Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he narrates that we were with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam on military expedition, okay, and we complained that we've got desires and we're far away from our families essentially, or our spouses, and should we not castrate ourselves? They're struggling with this. Should we not castrate ourselves? And the Prophet ﷺ prohibited this. So even something like that, let alone changing one's entire gender, is considered prohibited. And this hadith also touches upon the exact thing that we are speaking about, which is what? Which is, this is the nature of life. You can't just indulge every desire that you have. Here, the Sahaba were expected just to kind of struggle through it. What can they do? They're far away from their spouses. They have these desires. They see this as a solution to it. The Prophet ﷺ says this is prohibited. You're not allowed to do this. What do? They just struggle through it. Have patience. Bear with patience, inshallah ta'ala. And this is an important part of any successful person's life, to have patience and forbearance, and certainly an important part of a Muslim's life. Okay, a Muslim who doesn't understand the concept of patience and forbearance can't get very far religiously.
There's one issue is that you got people that wanting to change their gender from one to the other. But there's also an issue of gender fluidity, where people decide one day they want to be male, the other day they want to be a female.
Yeah, here, subhanAllah, I mean, with the first issue, there's physical changes, and they're physically changing their gender and such things, which, as mentioned, is prohibited. This one is, really quite absurd. This is just a person feels male, so that's it. On that day they are male, even though they're physically female, okay? Or feels female, so that's it. That day they are female. This leads to so much corruption and fasad. Okay, and one of the central teachings of Islam is to prohibit and to keep people away from corruption and fasad. Fasad meaning the Arabic word for corruption and misguidance and these kind of things. So وَنَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ, for people just to be able to do this opens up the doors to so many endless problems, some very dangerous and some very puzzling. You see, some very dangerous in terms of, this male, for example, on this particular day, he could decide, well, he wants to go into the female toilets, or he wants to go into the female changing rooms, and he has a desire to go and to see females in that state of undress. Okay, so this just opens up the doors to that. On that particular day, he just gets to say, well, actually, I'm a male today, and then goes. Most sensible people are not going to accept this for their children. Okay, they've got a daughter, okay, or a younger sister, and they're going to school, and they're not going to be happy and accepting of, actually, I'm fine with the fact that this 15-year-old boy can just enter into their changing room and see them in a state of undress or what have you, just because he feels today that he is female. Okay, so there's some very practical dangerous repercussions of this kind of behavior and this kind of mentality. You take it out the context of a school, you could have a 30-year-old man who decides he's female, and public toilets goes to the female public toilets, and you've got a young girl there, okay, and he's left alone with her, and he might have all kinds of ill intent. I'm not saying everybody who feels they are gender fluid has ill intent. Absolutely not. Okay, but the point is, how you going to, if you open up these doors, how you going to safeguard, and how you going to protect? What you're going to say, well, actually, we know this person is corrupt and this person is not, so he can be gender fluid and he can't, or she can be gender fluid and she can't. You can't do it. You see, you can't just know what's in a person's mind and heart, and you can't judge people's intentions. So this is why in Islam we're not going to open up these doors in the first place. You feel more masculine today or more feminine today, you feel like that, khair. Okay, we're not going to say, okay, therefore you are a male. Okay, and somebody who feels more like a cat today, we're going to say, therefore, yeah, today you're a cat. Okay, today you don't have this responsibility or this responsibility, you just behave like a cat. Okay, somebody might say, oh, well, hold on a minute, you're crossing species now, that's a problem. Why is it a problem? If your justification for it is, well, this person is happier as a male or happier as a female, so what if this person is happier identifying as an animal? You see, why is that a problem? No. But it just, if these things are, kind of taken and allowed to just flourish, then you could very easily have a breakdown in society itself.
No. Maybe we should just touch upon the fact that, we're not saying that people are just attention seeking or they're doing this because, they want other people to treat them differently or whatever, look up to them or maybe garner, maybe get money or whatever. They might actually genuinely have these urges or thoughts or feelings.
Yeah, I think this is a very, very important point, especially since I've just spoken about how certain people might have ill intent. That's a point that I'm making in order to say that this is problematic, this approach is problematic. It's not a judgment on specific individuals. And we as Muslims, we are not allowed to judge people's intentions. Okay, we have, mashallah, laws and guidance in place to safeguard everybody. Okay, but we don't judge people's intentions, and this is important. When people just make blanket statements, oh, whoever's gender fluid is just attention seeking. Okay, whoever's gender fluid, just does it for this ill intention or this ill intention, and they're just lying and making it all up. No, we shouldn't judge people's intentions in that way. Rather, we say, fine, okay, we're not going to call people liars. If this person feels more masculine, we're not going to say that's impossible. You see, a person who's a female, and as some of the people who claim to be gender fluid or say they are gender fluid, they'll express it like this. They'll say, well, some days I wake up and I feel more male, and some days I wake up and I feel more female. Okay. First, and one of the biggest problems they're going to have is identifying what that actually means. What in this society, what does it mean to feel more male? Because obviously this is not a physical thing, because physically they are what they are. Okay. So a discussion more than one discussion I've come across is, this is really the point being made to them, right? Okay, fine. You said that on this particular day you felt more male than female. You're physically a female, but you felt more male than female. What does that mean? And then there's no answer to that. Why? Because in a society where it's considered wrong to, a pigeonhole in that way, where, okay, if you're more into sports, then you're masculine, and if you're less into sports, you're feminine. You can't do that. Okay? Or, if you want to spend more time with boys or males, then you're masculine, and you want to spend more time with... You can't do that. The society itself will say, no, that's not wrong, and that's not right. We don't accept that. That's prejudice, essentially. Okay, that's sexism. Okay, why can't females be inclined towards sports? For example, I'm not speaking about the Islamic teaching here. I'm speaking about society here in the UK, for example, how they view things. So it becomes really difficult for people to even express what they mean in those kind of with those kind of parameters in place. You can't express, you can't even justify, and you can't even really explain what it means to wake up more masculine and more feminine. Okay, whereas in Islam, alhamdulillah, we do accept these kind of things. We accept that males should be masculine and females should be feminine, and we do object to any kind of greying the distinction, okay, or removing the distinction between them. We have distinction, and the Prophet ﷺ in sound hadith has said, males who act effeminate are cursed, and females who act masculine are cursed. We have this clear distinction, and mashallah, we have that clear in Islam. However, in many societies nowadays, they don't want that. They feel that's prejudiced or that's wrong in some way. So it's, you end up, unfortunately, when you go down this route, you end up kind of tying yourself up in knots. You can't really express it. You can't really explain it. But the point is, having said all of that, yes, we're not going to accuse people. We're not going to say, oh, you're just attention seeking, or you're just a liar, or you're just making things up. We accept that people have inclinations and desires which are contrary to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has permitted. And once again, the response to that is and must be that this is something that, you need to turn away from, you need to struggle against, you need to, fight just like you do with many, many other desires, rather than the advice being, oh yeah, the best thing to do is just embrace it. And okay, you feel like a boy, you're a boy today. You feel like a man, you're a man today. You feel like a girl, you're a girl. You feel like a woman, you're a woman today. No.
Well, I think we're out of time now, so we'll discuss another important issue next time of homosexuality, inshallah.
Inshallah, barakallah.
Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.